the top story of the day, the biggest stunner of the day, No.6 Oklahoma losing to Kansas 38-33. My goodness. All right, so positives here. Lance Leipold did this show upon getting the job at Kansas, and I have been such a huge Lance Leipold fan from the day that he started at Kansas. I thought this was a great match, a program that had been down for the better part of a decade, going to get a proven winner at the lower levels, winning national championships, and then turning Buffalo into a team that can go bowling, and a man who had a vision for what Kansas football could be, given just a little bit of time, and he showed that early on. Then he got a big win at Austin on the road, and now coming into this game against Oklahoma, they were looking to get a signature win against the program that they most aspire to be like. My goodness, did they come out the gate firing? 14 points they put up in a hurry on Oklahoma, mostly running the football. That offensive line was very physical. That offensive line gave Devin Neal and Oklahoma native Daniel Highshaw all the room it needed to try to put a dent in what was otherwise a great Oklahoma defense for most of the year. It's shown some signs of some fissures that got exposed in this game. But I thought that this was really an outstanding game back and forth, especially as it looked like Oklahoma was in a deep hole. Then they caught a break, frankly, when lightning was saw in the area 8 miles outside. That means you got to have a mandatory half-hour delay. Ended up being an hour before we got back to playing football in the second quarter. And then Oklahoma, in very quick succession, puts up 21 unanswered points in the second quarter alone, right? It looked like the kind of Oklahoma offense that we had become accustomed to seeing, except with one wrinkle. They were running the hell out of the ball, and they were running it well. As a matter of fact, I sent a fake telegram to the OU offensive office asking, please, run Tawee Walker. Stop. Run the damn ball. Stop. Turns out when they ran the damn ball, Oklahoma was pretty doggone good, putting up over 250 yards of rushing. And this is huge for Oklahoma, who hadn't been able to run the ball for any length of time for diddly squat all year long. But with each passing moment, it felt like Kansas was finding ways to get back in the game. When the game seemed to get out of hand for them, they scored 12 in a row coming out of the second half, right? Then we get 6 from Oklahoma, and it's a one-score battle back and forth all the way toward the end of this game. Really came down to 2 decisions. One is to let Kansas score and let them go up by 5 so that you get the ball back, put it in Dylan Gabriel's hands, give your offense a shot. 2, Brent Venables talked about it, maybe taking a timeout, maybe giving his guys a little bit more of an opportunity to go score. But at one point, it just felt inevitable that Oklahoma was not going to have what it took to get past this Kansas football team with a defense that decided to bow up, led by Kenny Logan out there, who was a tackling machine, a guy that stayed on, one of the captains on that team, one of the leaders on that team. I could not be more impressed with what Kansas pulled off, because it's one thing to lose to Oklahoma every year that they played since 1997, right? So that's a 26-year drought without a win, okay? That's one. It's another thing entirely to beat a top 10 team. That's the first time Kansas has done that since 2008. And it's another thing entirely to beat a top 10 team in Lawrence, Kansas, a thing that hadn't happened for Kansas since 1984. I'm 36 years old. My parents got married in 1984, which means that they had 3 years of marital bliss and 36 years of damn kids. And it's been that long since Kansas was able to celebrate a seismic signature victory like this one, right? And I could not be more happy for them. Kansas is not only going bowling for the second year in a row, but doing it over the dead body of the best team in the Big 12 conference. It also means that the Big 12 quietly becomes the only Power 5 team left, or excuse me, only Power 5 conference left without an undefeated team to pitch to the college football playoff, with those initial rankings being revealed next Tuesday. We'll talk about those things as soon as they happen on Tuesday. But again, I have to just give it up for what Jason Bean was able to do. Wasn't his best game, 15 of 32 for 218, 0 TDs, 2 picks, right? Felt like either one of those picks could sway it for Oklahoma, but you also had 2 fumbled kickoffs. It's raining, but still 2 fumbled kickoffs. We saw a 2-point conversion fail after 2-point conversion fail. We saw 2 great offensive lines going to work on each other, and we got to see what it was like for Dylan Gabriel to be in another winning time moment and just not have it to go. But not for nothing, he wasn't able to throw the ball for much of anything all game. Like, as soon as it was clear to me that Oklahoma was going to have a hard time running the football or throwing the football. You got to start running the football. But along the way, it seemed like as soon as Jeff Levy made that math work, he did not trust his quarterback to go and find wide receivers like Jaleel Farouk or Drake Stoops or Gavin Freeman out in patterns. Nick Anderson had a pretty bad game, his first really bad game in a Sooner uniform. That also kind of goes to what they were able to do at Kansas, what they knew they were going to look for. Andy Kotelnicki, who has been offensive coordinator for Lance Leipold, called one hell of a game, man. He's been here with him since 2013, and they do a lot of motion, a lot of window dressing, a lot of what Ethan Downs called eye crimes that they have the defense committing. But he wanted to get Kansas to a point where they could physically overmatch people. That's what great football teams do. They're able to impose their will on you, and they do that primarily by running the football. I cannot take my hat off more to him. And I said going into this week, this game was squirrely, right? I'm telling people that anybody would listen. Look, this is a Kansas football team that ran for 400 yards on Central Florida, put up 51 points. People are going, yeah, but they didn't have John Rice Plumlee when they did that. Oh, yeah, because he plays defense. Yeah, because that's why that matters, right? I'm also saying this is a Kansas football team that only managed to score 14 on Texas, and Texas put up 40 on them, right? So it just didn't feel right. But it also felt like Kansas was in a place where not only they were due, but they were ready for it. They sold out this game. They showed up in droves. They even had a guy who was trying to slide down the tarp during the rain delay to keep himself amused, as this game was really nasty. Like it was, I mean, the weather was really nasty. It's like 38 degrees on the field. It's windy. The ball's got to feel like a rock. And yet Kansas has really taken on Lance Leipold's DNA, man. This is a man who I congratulated after the Texas win. He says, hey, we showed that we got a little something to us. He wasn't celebrating it the way that other KU fans were. He was going, no, we're beginning to show signs of the kind of football team that I expect us to be. And even going into this year, saying many of the same things, we got to be tougher in these situations. We got to know who we are, and we have to be able to count on our own self-confidence to go get things done. That is a man who has set the bar so terribly high for his guys and has asked them to reach it, and they continue to do that. They reach up and try to hit that bar with every snap they take. And, that's not surprising to me. Lance Leipold's won national championships before. He knows what national championship football looks like. Now, those are my superlatives for Oklahoma, but for Kansas, but I don't have many for Oklahoma right now, because on third and short, Jeff Levy, 3rd and 1, decides to pass the football, okay? That ends up being a pick six. That's the first score of the game for Kansas, okay? On 4th and short, chooses to pass the football, okay? Going for it on 4th down is great if you pick up those 4th downs by running the football. When Tyree Walker was running the ball, Oklahoma looked like a really great offense. When he wasn't, and you're asking Jaleel Farouk to do it, maybe he puts the ball on the ground because he plays wide receiver. Couple of other chances just didn't go Oklahoma's way. Key Lawrence had a ball quite literally hit him in the hands like it was coming off the jugs machine, and he dropped it. Maybe that one changes the game. But Ethan Downs made an outstanding pick that felt like a Torrance Marshall play, right? Was going to give them an opportunity to go win this football game, and yet Kansas found another way. I can't look at this game and believe that Oklahoma played its best football, and I can't even look at this game and say Kansas played its best football. I can't look at this game and say, okay, now you got the 1L for, this goes into what? It's only been once since 2004 that Oklahoma has managed to make it out of the month of October undefeated. And that was 2021, right? You'll remember that year because get out of October undefeated and then promptly lose to Baylor and Oklahoma State, and Lincoln Riley's out the door, right? This year just felt like this was going to be a game that caught Oklahoma unaware, or at a moment when it had already shown itself to be a little bit vulnerable. Did that against Central Florida, wasn't able to withstand what Kansas was doing. But now we got a fight in the Big 12 championship. Matter of fact, I saw the books had already decided to make Texas the favorite to win the Big 12 title again and to make the college football playoff based entirely on this loss to Kansas. Never mind that Oklahoma beat Texas. Doesn't seem to matter to many folks outside of Norman, especially right now. But when you look at your quarterback and he goes 14-19 for 171, and he was more of a threat running the football, had 3 rushing TDs than he had throwing the ball. Yeah, okay, I get that, because now you're saying that the defense that was giving up, fewer than 10 points a game, all of a sudden getting scored on, right? 29 by Central Florida and 38 today by Kansas. You got some moving and shaking to do. And then Bedlam is on Saturday. And like this Kansas game, Probably going to be the last time that Oklahoma State sees Oklahoma for some time. As a matter of fact, at Lawrence, they're already chanting SEC, SEC to Oklahoma, right? But goodness me. I also look at this game and I want to make it about coaching, right? I want to make it about play calling, but I also looked and saw Oklahoma had opportunities to go win the football game and just lost the football game. That's how that goes, right? And I've been saying don't mind Oklahoma, and I'm going to continue to say don't mind Oklahoma. Now they got the one loss, right? Oklahoma's not a threat anymore, right? Florida State's undefeated, right? Don't expect Oklahoma to be anywhere near that top 4. They might not even be a top 10 team, according to the college football playoff. That's good. That's nice. That's what we like here. Don't mind Oklahoma. It's going to be all right. Not going to be all right if you're giving up 123 rushing on 20 rushes in the first half, though. Okay? It's not going to be all right when you go into halftime up 21-17, lose the game 38-33. Okay? It's not going to be all right. It's going to be some moving and shaking. It's going to get loud. It's going to get a little bit violent here in the month of November, but that's what this sport is about. At the top, feels like it's anybody's ball game now because Kansas State just stopped a mud hole and walked it dry. And my goodness, we're looking at a Texas team that kind of feels vulnerable without Quinn Ewers. Malik Murphy in his first start didn't have a great game against Brigham Young, but they got the win. Texas, Kansas State next week, and then Oklahoma and Oklahoma State next week, and it's all still to play for. But a couple other things to point out here on OU that just stick in your craw. When you got 11 penalties for 101 yards, you are an undisciplined football team. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. When you are 2 of 10 on third down, you're not good on the money down. Those two stats alone could tell you so much about what a football game is or isn't. But again, all credit to Kansas. All credit to the Jayhawks. Rock chalk, all of it. You will not hear a bad word from me about that Kansas football team. You got to take an L. You got to take an L that way. Take it to Lance Leipold and KU. Now bounce back from it, right? Don't let it keep you down. But don't let anybody tell you that that's not a good football team. They're 6-2, baby. And they're this much closer to a double-digit winning season. That's phenomenal when you look at what the Jayhawks are. Even as I already got to hear people telling me that Utah is going to be the favorite to win the Big 12 next year, I'm saying, I don't know, man. Did y'all see what Lance Leipold and KU did against Oklahoma? Maybe keep that long and shading. What does it mean for Oklahoma's college football playoff chances? I think they're still in it, right? I think there's another loss or two to be had. At least one is going to be had by the 2 of the top 3 because Michigan and Ohio State got to play each other, right? And then you're talking about Florida State going to continue to run the table. Maybe Georgia. They look like Georgia. Again, we'll get into that. But right now, I feel like all Oklahoma has to do is get back to the Big 12 championship game and win it. And then you still got yourself a shot to go and do the damn thing. But I wanted to puke during that game, dog. Like I was telling the show staff, I am not okay. I was beside myself. I lived and died by 18 times during OU Kansas, and it was a whole mess of a game. And I'm going to remember it for a very, very long time, as I hope Kansas fans will too. Go fish that goalpost out of the lake so that you can go put it up and continue your season this year. But credit to y'all, man. I love it. I really do. If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.